television. We're now at 7:11 a.m. and I am Adanna Combie. We're going to start our conversations this morning with our guest in studio. We speak with Sergeant Medina Daniel-Kirk of the TTPS and Corporal Carva Vincent. This morning we're speaking about using the nation's roads, some traffic regulations and some things that you must know as a citizen using our nation's roads. But before we get into that, of course, we cannot have the TTPS here and not talk about things that happen during the week. I know usually on Monday you come and you give the regular crime update, but there's been so much activity this week happening. And of course, if you could get a little insight on that before we head into our main topic. We had, there was a murder that took place on yesterday morning, and also some robberies happening during the week as well. Can you give us any information on those things?
Good morning, I must say good morning, Adanna, and good morning to the viewing public. So, firstly, I must say condolence goes out to the family of Nikisha Sandy of Plymouth due to that shooting incident that would have occurred yesterday morning. All right, so what would have happened? We would have also recorded 2 reports of robberies that would have occurred Thursday night. The first one occurred in the Scarborough district. Right, there was a robbery involving the use of a firearm at the Highmore supermarket. There was also a robbery that occurred in the Crown Point district. Fortunately, the suspect in that was held by the Crown Point police station. That robbery also involved the use of a firearm. The firearm was held, and that suspect will soon be taken before the court reference to the offense that was committed.
Okay, thank you for those updates. And of course, we will have more information on that when we meet with you again on Monday, giving us some more details where that is concerned. And, I just hope that our space can become as safe as we all want it to be, because as I always say, that the space is to be used by me, to be used by you, by our children, and for generations to come. So let us see if we can intercept these criminals and the criminal activities before things get out of hand. And it's looking very hot these days, and we're trying to temper it down a little bit. But let's talk now about the topic this morning. We're talking about clearing up misguided information as it relates to traffic restrictions, how we use the roads. I want to talk specifically again about the use of roundabouts, when people suddenly stop on the road. And there's so many violations that people do on the road, and they just do it, haphazardly, and they do it because, okay, it's convenient to them. And specifically, I want to speak about one where, where there's the Pentecostal Light and Life School. There is no traffic light there. So there's nothing regulating how the traffic stops. And of course, people want to drop their children off to school there or pick them up. And so they pull aside on the road or whatever they have to do to get them to drop off there. What is the correct thing to do where that is concerned? Is it that they should drive up to Sangster Hill and drop the children off? Or how are you going to intercede in terms of them dropping them off right on the highway, because that's the middle of the highway and they drop off and pick up at a very busy time? So what is happening there?
All right, good morning to the listening public, and again, condolences to the family of Miss Keisha Sandy. Our hearts go out to her. It is advised, highly advised, that parents dropping their children to school, drop them off in Sangster Hill at the school entrance, because it is very dangerous for persons dropping their students or the children on the northern side or the left side of the Cloudnoy Highway and allowing children to cross that road, because at the hours they're dropping them, the traffic is very, very heavy, and most times they may get little instances where you're crossing the road and people stopping suddenly to allow them to cross and causing accidents, numerous accidents. You can't really blame the drivers who stop suddenly. You can't even blame the drivers who get in contact with them. Most times we have to charge, or not charge, but at least still don't want to see the children crossing the road. And by extension, we may have to even implement some measure where we have to charge the parents for endangering the lives of their children while crossing the road.
So at the present moment, there are no regulations in terms of that specific thing. We're moving now on advice, and we use it.
Well, there are regulations. There are regulations because pedestrian heedless to traffic, crossing the carriageway, those are offenses under the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, and we value our nation's children, and I believe parents value their children. So I'm not seeing why or where in heaven's name, I must say, are you allowing your children to cross the highway? It's very dangerous. So it's advised, drop them off in Sangerville, or if you have to, proceeding west, you can drop them off on the side of the road, and then you can merge back in the traffic and go your merry old way.
And in the instance where they drop them off on the opposite side and they have to cross over, something should happen and an accident occurs. Someone stops suddenly, as you mentioned,
Right.
and of course causing the traffic behind them to probably have a bumper-to-bumper incident there. Who is to be held accountable for this situation?
Well, there is something called causation. Is that something that causes something to happen? So if the child crosses the road, causing an accident, the main word is cause. Most likely we have to prefer charges against the child. And here is the operative word there, child, that causes the accident.
But how do you lay charges against the child? Remember, the child was traveling in a vehicle
Right.
that was driven by an adult.
Well, we wouldn't charge the child, We had to charge the parent now. And then in some cases, child protection, especially police service, may have to intervene because you as a parent endanger the life of your child.
Correct. The situation is what it is right now. People are still doing it. After we finish this conversation, they're going to continue doing it because that is the nature of the man. When I say the mankind, that's just how we are. Is there anything from the police side in terms of having a presence there, a visibility of a police officers to regulate the traffic there and prohibiting persons from stopping on that spot?
Well, yes, we have had 1 or 2 patrols. Motorcyclists will stop and direct parents or motorists to continue. You could go into Scarborough, come around, and back on the highway, drop off your children, as the case may be. In most cases, and for some reason, it has decreased. It has decreased, but it still happens. It still happens.
I know at some school areas, some school zones like the Scarborough Methodist School and Anglican School, there are strict regulations. There's actually the signage there that says you can't enter within certain hours. Is anything like that going to be considered for that area? Because it really is a hazard. It's a dangerous situation for the children and also for drivers, as you're saying, having to stop suddenly. What if somebody has to stop so suddenly that the person in the back, because I mean, it's peak time, it's busy hour, and people trying to get to and from on time, and so they might be driving at speeds that are, very hard to control, to stop suddenly, and something fatal could happen. So is there any consideration for any measure of signage or any, regulation that stipulates where people can actually see, so they can't say, well, I didn't know, because there's a sign there?
Well, I would have had conversations with my inspectors, my superintendents, in terms of having some signage to indicate no stopping, because the regulation states you're not supposed to stop on the shoulder of the highway. You stop in case of an emergency. The child is not in danger at that point in time. Keep on going. You go around the roundabout if you have to. Go to Scarborough, come back and drop them on the safer side of the roadway. And there is a misconception that a collision that happens from the back, like somebody running to the back of another vehicle, is that you're always wrong. That is not the case, because there are cases where stopping suddenly is also a chargeable offense. You gotta give a reason why you stop suddenly. And in this situation, you stop because you didn't want to bounce the child, because the vehicle stopped in front of you. But they say that you're supposed to be a certain distance behind the vehicle you're following. But in some cases where like the road is wet, or you might have a slight oil spill by them trucks passing, you may stop, hoping to stop in time, and you may skid and go right into the back of the vehicle there. So, but there are regulations in place for that.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see, change in behavior, because at the end of the day, it really is human behavior. So I'm hoping to see some measure of change taking place there. And of course, ensuring the safety. And I know going into Sangerville also is a challenge, because there's one way in, one way out. I know there's the bypass there now from Smithfield coming across, which causes even more congestion, in my opinion, and so those are things we have to look into. And I'm hoping that there's a collaborative effort that can bring relief to this situation, because I consider it to be a very, very important issue for the safety of our children and also for the convenience of drivers and pedestrians as well. So I'm hoping that we can look into to this. In the event that there is, let's say there's a roadblock or a police check or even an incident taking place of this nature, and of course you have to submit your driver's permits and your insurance or whatever. Some people, I don't know for whatever reason, but once I am in my motor vehicle, my driver's permit is with me and so is my insurance. Some people have photographs of it on their phone. Is that acceptable?
Well, the law states that you have to present your driver's permit upon request of a police officer in uniform, a licensing officer in uniform. A picture of a driver's permit is not a driver's permit. It's just a picture. It could be fabricated, but it is not the actual driver's permit. Now, we can charge you. In most cases, they do charge you for not producing that driver's permit. But in some cases, we can say, okay, give an opportunity to produce it as soon as practicable. In some cases,
And this is based on the discretion of the officer?
Discretion of the officer. But by rights, you're not supposed to be driving that motor vehicle without your driver's permit or your certificate of insurance. And a picture is not the driver's permit, it's a picture of it. Same conception also with some people take a copy of your certificate of insurance. That is not the original document. That is a copy. So you can get charged for that also. Because we've had instances where they fabricate the insurance in some matters before the court, where they alter the certificate of insurance, but the keen eyes of the officers detected that, and we charge them. So you're supposed to have the original document.
And what are the charges for not having these documents or even forging them? What are the charges that are...
Uttering false documents. That's a charge. It comes like fraud. And it's a serious offense because you're trying to defraud the state by altering that insurance. And it is an arrestable offense also, arrestable offense.
Very good. My other concern now is the use of roundabouts. The use of roundabouts. I mean, we don't have plenty of roundabouts in Tobago, but I have seen some very strange. I'm trying to figure out how the drivers come up with these ways of using the roundabout, the one right in front of the Shore Park complex and also the one at Orkinskew. In my little knowledge, I know that you give the right of way to the person on the right. Please explain to our viewers, our listeners, and the road users, how do we approach a roundabout situation?
All right, you're proceeding a roundabout. If you see a vehicle on the roundabout, you stop. You wait, see where the direction is going, and then you enter the roundabout. If you're approaching the roundabout and you see a vehicle, as you rightly said, approaching from the right, stop, wait. For some strange reason, the population has picked up speed, and everybody is in a hurry to go where they want to go. And in that speed causes accidents, and they want to come to the police and say this and say that. And when I explain to them that no, yield to vehicles coming from the right, and they have the firm belief that they are correct. But it has been stated in the regulation, yield to vehicles coming from the right. And as you rightly said, I have seen some, I don't even know how to describe the drive. And I have to use the powers that have been given to me and say, driver's license, insurance, please. I'm going to issue a ticket for the offense committed. And most people will be upset. And some people say, well, I didn't know. But I think there was a program just when the roundabout started, and they were edifying the public about the use of the roundabout. I believe you could even focus the same program on this program here also, on this program.
So there needs to be more sensitization and public education in terms of the use of the roundabouts.
And point to note also is that the generation of drivers now who would not have been able to utilize one of the first roundabouts, which would be the one at Wilson Road. There was a roundabout there. So everybody come up now using traffic lights. So this roundabout kind of new for some drivers. So it's just a little, as you rightly say, familiarization of the roundabout.
And now we're talking about police presence on the nation's roads, right? Especially where it relates to traffic and traffic offenses, controlling and managing traffic flow. Which primarily happens, when I talk about what happens, the presence of police during the daylight hours. Most of these instances happen after dusk, sunset. Later on, you might hear about people driving. Sometimes even you're at home and you're hearing on the highway how people driving. You're trying to figure out at what speed they're driving at, right? And there is, of course, because there isn't a visible police presence, people think that they can take more chances. And I suppose also because the roads are a bit, it's not as congested as during the day. Is there anything that is going to be put in place, whether it is a police presence or any type of presence that is going to be placed in the nighttime driving hours so that people can observe and respect the traffic laws in terms of speed and the way they drive?
Well, all right. Myself and my sergeant would have put in place 1, 2 patrols in the nighttime because the motorcycles at 6 p.m. have to be off the roads. So at 6, our regulation states all motorcycles have to be off the road for their safety. And there are some cases where I myself may even take 2 officers, borrow an unmarked police vehicle to catch some of these same drivers. You know, because in some cases it's like how will you put this, boy? Is what's the term? Is that if you're city police, everything is good. If you're in city police, yeah man, free fall.
Reckless, yes.
Yeah. So we're trying our best to see how much more of these kind of unmarked police vehicles, patrols we can have in place with uniform officers because, as I said, production of license and insurance, uniform, in uniform. But it's a teaching program, it's in process and we'll get it there.
All right, we've been speaking with representatives from the TTPS this morning as they bring information and clearing up some misconceptions in terms of the traffic regulations and how we use the nation's roads. Of course, urging us to have, proper road behavior in terms of the way we traverse the roads, whether we're pedestrians or we're drivers. So we're urging us to please adhere to safety regulations, adhere to the law, respect the law and observe the law and practice the law so that we can all be safe on the nation's roads. Of course, they'll be back again at some point in time to bring us some more updates. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning and for clearing up some of those situations for us and encouraging our viewers to participate in road safety. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a short break before we continue conversations this morning in studio with our guests. And before we go, of course, we invite you to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.